Hello, people, and welcome to another Bowtie Friday, and I hope you're all doing extremely well, and you and yours are safe and well, and you've had a good week. And welcome to the start of the weekend, people, which is what it's all about, and the little discussion in the little room that we have here at Bowtie Fridays. So, hello, Sash. How are you going?
I'm just having a fabulous week, Chris, and it's all the better for seeing your amazing face and splendid bow tie collection every Friday, and just making that head a little bit bigger and hopefully still fit in through the doorway.
Yeah, well, when I designed this place and built it over here in Saasha, I made sure that there were sliding doors and all of the walkways were extremely wide, and so there's no chance that I'm going to get caught between my ears basically on any of the door frames as I'm walking. So it's all good. It's all
Fabulous.
Good. That was a stipulation from the architect. Make sure that if my head gets bigger, I can walk everywhere through the house.
Excellent.
Yes.
I love the future-proof planning. That's what we're all here about. Shout out to all those engineers out there as well, future planning and proofing the multiple industries, and even one of those which is very much our patron sponsors, OLEOLOGY.
Indeed.
Doing its bit for the environment, oil and gas, mining, defense, heavy industry. The list goes on, Chris. And I suppose, Chris, we talk a lot about random stuff, random subjects.
The random people. We're the random king and queens of random. We're the random.
Going strong.
So, but it's the little discussions, Sash. It's the discussions, the little discussions that change people's opinions, and our opinions have always been based on the way that we've been brought up, what we've read, what we've heard. I live by the term trust and verify. So trust what everybody's saying, and that's fine. But go and do your own research. Go and do your own, fact checking. Our fact checking department, as you know, Sash, is well on it. And even though they're in straitjackets most of the time, they are fully on whatever it is that we're talking about. But you must. I mean, we're in the age of scamming. We're in the age of people wanting bucks fast. You have to trust and verify. If your mother sends you a text message saying that, she's lost a mobile phone and can you send $5,000 for a new one straight away, please? Trust it, but verify it. Give her a call, see what's going on, see if the phone's actually still working. So yes, we're in that stage where we can be a little bit biased in our decisions. And I think in this world, we need to broaden our thoughts and broaden the way that we do things when we collaborate, Sash. We've got to use that word more often.
Oh, the big C word. Yes.
The big C word, and you're not always going to get along with everybody that you work with, and you're not always going to get along with the people that you meet, but you can respect everyone. That is a given. But you don't necessarily have to understand or believe in their ideals, but you can still respect them for having those. So it's a basis, and we always have discussions on little things and big things off air. So are you suggesting that we bring one of these discussions into this forum, Sarah?
I think so. And I think as well, because a lot of our viewers around the world work in various industries, but also appreciate the importance where they may not necessarily be in a large corporation as part of the big, one of the cogs of the many cogs that operate and turn the money wheel over. But we can all appreciate it. And I think understanding how small business that grows into a big business and how that big business can still remain relevant. I think that's really important. Yes. Because it all ends with the end consumer, right?
Well, it does. And I mean, ultimately, if people aren't buying what you've got, whether that be a product or a service, if people don't want that product or service anymore, then that kind of makes you a little bit defunct. Really? You're kind of, like you are not doing what you were doing before. So, excuse me. So unless you keep a track on your client base, unless you keep a track on, on your employers, your culture. There's a whole range of things, and there's plenty of courses, and there's plenty of people better than me to figure that one out. But from an overarching view, I think that big business and people in glass towers need to keep an eye on what's going on below.
100%.
Not 100% of the time, because it's not their job, right? Their job is to big picture stuff, right? The people up top, big picture people, they work out where the company's going, where it needs to go, what the company needs to get it there. And, the worker bees, the people that are down the bottom doing the projects and working the computers and doing the drafting and, right through to making the coffees and doing the teas and keeping the floors clean. These people are the people that make sure that the train's still running, the machine still turns, that it can get to where it's going, right?
Because you've brought up a few interesting facts, Chris, of like things that you've just, you've in your general reading, in between keeping the chickens.
Plenty of time for reading now, Sash. Plenty of time for reading. So,
well, you have plenty of time until the chickens break loose. So in between those times when the chickens get really smart and build another bridge over the fence, the facts that you've come up with that we've spoken about previously on how businesses, and you've brought up some really great examples. Probably let's shoot the breeze.
So obviously, look, to bring up an industry, let's the airline industry, right? So aviation industry, right? So the aviation industry was really knocked around. And how does that, over the COVID period and all of that sort of stuff, the years that shall not be mentioned. And we shall not mention Alan Joyce. And we shall not mention Alan Joyce, because that's the situation. But look, there's a company, Lufthansa, who is bottom of the table, right? Lufthansa was one of those, allegedly, was one of those airlines that, wasn't doing so well. It didn't have a good rating, didn't have a good customer care rating, and it wasn't doing so well. So there was a pilot by the name of Jens Ritter, who was a pilot for them for many years, and he became CEO last April. And I read a small article on the fact that he decided on a flight from Frankfurt to Bahrain to become a flight attendant. So he'd been a pilot for many years and all of that sort of stuff. And, obviously he's CEO or COO, something of Lufthansa. Trust and verify people, look it up. But Jens Ritter decided that, on the first part of this leg from Frankfurt to Bahrain, he was going to look after the business class passengers. And on the second part of the leg, he looked after the economy class passengers. So, he went in, and he's changing culture from the ground up, because he learnt a few things from that, obviously when you've got to smile and you've got to be nice and you've got to have a good attitude and you've got to do all of those sort of things, when your body clock at night is telling you that you should be asleep and you're irritated because, you're flying and but you've got this persona as a flight attendant that you've got to put out to people that are grumpy and people that are not necessarily nice. And you get all types of people that fly.
Oh, yeah.
But you've got to remain, where it's at. Your mental state has to remain the way that it looks. You are a mirror for the people that are flying with you. So, so he found with that how do you keep people so they're seen and appreciated? Ultimately, how do you keep your staff, your personnel, all of that sort of stuff? How do you keep them appreciated? and it's not always about money. I mean, money is something that's there, and obviously remuneration is something that is needed. But, ultimately people just need to be valued. People like to be valued, and they like to be listened to. So that got me onto going in a bit deeper and seeing. So heads up to you, Ren. I know you're a Jens. Jens, I know you're a long time viewer of the show, and hats off to you, good sir, for doing that. But also I found out that Dara, CEO of Uber, he went and drove for Uber and found that there were issues around apartment blocks and how he could help his drivers or the people that were driving for Uber, how he could, change the way or put into practice, give them more time to find the person that they need to find, because when they're getting into that situation, he was unaware that it was that difficult. But by doing the job for a while, he understood then, and then could bring that practice into management when he was up there. Luxman, major man of Starbucks, right? He has said that he's going to be a barista once a month. So he can keep an eye on his culture, so he can keep an eye on his people, so he can keep an eye on what the feeling is with the people that are there. There's now Airbnb with Brian. He spent 6 months going and staying at a few of his Airbnbs and doing rentals for 6 months, so he could understand his customer experience. So there's a bunch of really big companies, and that got me back to thinking about Qantas, right? Who's the national carrier, and I love the Red Kangaroo. I think they're fantastic. Right from the days of calling Australia home. And doing all of that. I think that's fine, but I think they've lost touch. I think they've lost touch with their flying base. I think they've lost touch with their working base, but they've kept in touch with the shareholders. So that got me to thinking, what's a company for? What is a company for? Is a company there to make money? Is a company there for the shareholders? Is a company there for the working people that work for the company, the employees? Is the company there for the consumers that consume whatever it is the company is actually selling or moving? And I would say that it's probably all over, right? You've got to have a balance. So it's about striking the balance between shareholders, money, environment, workers, employees, and consumers. It's about striking a balance between all of those 5 different areas or 6 different areas in a business, and making sure that you keep in touch with those 5 different areas of business.
I think it would be really interesting to actually get if you're, for all of our viewers out there, to actually get your input, like comment on this video and let us know what do you believe is, is.
I mean, you can come on as Pink Lady 365, and we don't need to know who you are directly, but do you feel valued? What do you think are some of the changes that are required maybe in business? I mean, we're going forward, right? We're not doing the Mad Men style anymore. We're not doing the lunches. Our fabulous ladies that look after us all the time, guys, we need them in business. We need them to do what they need to do. They're special and wonderful. But, we're not living in that era anymore. We're moving into an era where guys can still be guys, because that's who we are. Ladies can be ladies, and we can support them, and they can support us, because we're good in different areas with what we do and all of that sort of stuff, which is great. But we need to figure out what we're going to do in the next 10 years. How is that going to look? How's the world going to look? Are we going to move away from dictatorships where we need more and more and more, or where we're going backwards? Or are we going to move more into a socialist commercial environment where, you know, we're all making a lot of coin and we're all doing what we need to do. But we're more collaborative, Sash. We're more understanding of people. The humanities come back into the humans.
Oh, yes, humanity, that factor. I think a lot of people forget that.
Well, you know, people that have had perspective. So if you've gone through something difficult, something tough, you know, you've climbed your own mountains.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the mountain is. You can always tell a person that's climbed a mountain because their attitude's different, their outlook on life is different. It is just, you know, like it's an energy, and you keep saying that, and I keep saying that with people, but you can feel that. You know that there is an inner strength that comes to those people that you can tell they've been through some trials and tribulations, and they've come out the other side, you know, stronger for it. They're a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more centered, a little bit more less volatile. You know, they'll listen a little bit more than what they talk.
So do you think keeping it as simple as possible, maybe just a few extra people in the world need to go climb you know, Mount Everest or Kilimanjaro and
I think
build
that
resilience?
sometimes self-reflection isn't such a bad thing. You know, I think that the reading, somebody said to me a long time ago that if you read a book that was written by somebody, a personal development book, and look, I love sci-fi. I can read sci-fi any day of the week, right? So fiction for me is something I can get lost in, and I can read a book a day. However, it doesn't do my grey matter very, very well. It helps my dreaming process because I find that I think outside the box. So the more books that I read like that, the more things that are obscure, the more things that are kind of left field, it expands my thought process to being able to think not in a, you don't think in a box, right? You start thinking about stuff. You go from all the cosmic stuff going around and you start looking at where you join the dots. You start looking between the dots rather than what the picture shows by joining the dots. You start to look at the pictures that are between them. So the things that are might be possible, not the things that are possible, we all know those, but the things that maybe aren't so possible that you might be able to do. So it helps with that. However, from the personal growth point of view, you know, non-fiction is definitely where it's at. And if you read a biography from somebody, you know, an autobiography, or if you read a biography of somebody, you get 40 years or 50 years of knowledge in one book, right? So somebody said to me, as I said a while ago, if you read one book a year, then you're 50 years ahead in knowledge just by reading one book, right? Because you can condense that person's life into your life in one book. So basically, you understand what they know to a certain extent by reading one book. Now, if you read 12, so you read a book a month. If you read 12 books a year, that's 12 by 50. So and you're ahead by that amount again, because as your parents probably told you, as my parents told me, don't touch the stove because it's hot, right? So we've only got so many years and we don't know how many years we're here for. So the point is that if you can read a book and somebody can point out to you that that stove's hot, so don't touch that stove in the book, then you don't have to go through that. You know, within 1 month, you've worked out the stuff not to touch and not to do and what stuff to do. So your life's easier, right? Because that's it. So read more books,
So essentially, I can become wiser, more a better ability to become a contributing citizen to the community as well, have greater knowledge, and able to, like you said, look at the other dots that aren't necessarily connected and not have to connect the dots to see a picture. And I can still look 30 years young.
Absolutely. 100%.
Sounds great, Chris.
And you know, we live in a world of fake news, right? We live in a world where plenty of people are talking on, you know, some of our, you know, let's say our media channels. You know, you've got the Facebooks out there, you've got the TikToks out there. I'm still amazed at how many people believe what's written on Facebook and written on TikTok and written on everything else. But you know, social media is a big thing. So my point is that if you make yourself available to the learnings in particular areas which you know are true by reading a book on somebody's life, so they've lived it, so you gain that knowledge, that's less of an opportunity that you're going to get scammed by somebody telling you that the earth is flat when, you know, we know that it's round, sorry, but that's the way that it is. We've seen photos from a distance to tell us that it's round. So that's where it's at. So it gives you a lot of power. It gives you a lot of substance. It gives you a lot of confidence. It gives you a lot of, you know, basic humanity, you know, really. And who says that you've got to learn what you learn? If you're an engineer, all kudos to you. If you're a great mechanical engineer, that's fantastic. Learn to be a better mechanical engineer, that's great. But why not pick up a book on space travel? Why not pick up a book and learn about astrophysics? Why not pick up a book and learn about something completely different? Why be boxed into this area? Broaden your horizons, broaden your knowledge base. Something crazy. You know, if you study a particular subject for a year, you are a world authority on that subject. So I'm talking about reading books. So aviaries, right? Pick that as a subject. If you were reading everything there was about aviaries, every scientific paper, everything that was ever written, everything that was ever done for a year, then you would be a world authority on aviaries. That's it, right? So whether it's sport, whether it's fashion, whether it's fitness, you know, if you want to get into the diet sort of side of it, the ketones, the ketosis, the, you know, the weightlifting, whatever it needs to be, if you studied that for a year, so you understood the enzymes, you understood the basis for how your body produces what it produces and does what it needs to do, after a year, you'd know exactly how the body operates. You'd understand the micronutrients that you need to eat. You'd understand what you're eating. You'd understand, you know, what those things did for your body. That's just in a year. Right.
So takeaway really is everyone pick up a book that's not within your sphere of influence, that
Absolutely.
you have no knowledge of or very little understanding. Gain some other perspectives. I think that's a great finishing thought for all of our viewers, because
if you have fear of something in life, it is because you have a lack of knowledge on that area, and that's why you fear it. So I say to everyone, if you fear a minority, if you fear a particular job that you need to do, learn about it, learn what it does, take away that fear with knowledge. So that's what I would say to everybody today. Take away your fear based on knowledge.
Thank you, Uncle Chriso.
There you go. So I know it's a little bit deep today, people, but I think business needs to get down and talk about it with its people and understand what the people below them are doing and understand and be a bit closer to them. People down the bottom have to understand what the people in the glass houses are doing. A bit more communication. Look at that, Sash. Communication solves all.
And, who knew?
And as we say to everybody as we move into this fantastic weekend, stay well, stay happy, and value
your time.
Value your time. That's it.